Here's another video on messing with these Jtec controllers. This is the second part. Well, obviously we got it out of the case. Now I'm going to show you how to get through this nasty shit that they put in here, this potting material. So first thing that I want to show you is the flash memory, because it's the main failure of these computers. Actually, it's usually not the flash chip itself, it's actually the soldering on it. Now, this is not the best way, this is just the way I do it. You know, if you figure out your own way to do this without damaging the board or any of the components on there, that's up to you. But I use an X-Acto knife to get started with it. What I do, obviously the chip's right here, go a little ways out from it, like to go down, make sure you don't have any components or traces, just down to where you touch the board. You know, have a new blade on here, just start to slice. Obviously pull the knife up, don't leave it down on the board, and just to be safe you want to do it this way, and just start cutting yourself out a nice square around this chip here. Like I say, definitely keep it up above the board so you're not destroying it at the same time. I mean, you can just go in and dig in with your fingers and rip it, but it just makes for a terrible looking repair. I usually go down just to where it just barely touches the board and lift it up, make sure you're above all the components on it. Alright, after you get that started, just start at one of the corners where you get your thumbs in there. Start rolling this stuff up off of the board. Keep your thumb pushed down as tight to the board as you can, that way you get a real clean pull off of this thing like that. There, after you cut it like that, obviously you get a nice square you can stick back down when you're done. That's the reason why I cut it out like that also. Usually using your thumbs like this works really well. God, whoever designed this stuff, I'd like to kick him in the shins a few times. This stuff is terrible. So another way that works really well with these, especially if you're doing the SBEC controllers, which are for a lot of the Stratuses, stuff like that, the big ones with the 2-plug, that stuff is about 4 times as thick as this, and it's really tough to get through. These dowel rods work really well for this. Usually I'll take one of these rods and cut a nice angle like this on it. It works really well when you got to get into that stuff that's really deep. You know, use these rods and push it up. That'll really help you a lot to get the stuff cleaned out around a component. Like if you need to change one of the drivers or something in there, these rods really will help you out a lot. But it's just a wooden dowel rod, and I usually cut whatever tip on the end that seems like it'll help you out best. Now this, I hate to show, it's been so long since I had to do this, but I use these Dremels to clean out around the chip, because you want to get, before you go soldering or desoldering anything, you want to use these. Before you go, and this is actually a stainless brush. But most important thing, before you go to use any of these, you want to take it, turn it on, put it on a piece of aluminum, and push and put some force down on it. If you go at one of these computers with a brand new brush like this, you can cut a hole directly through it. I mean, extremely easy. You're going to damage it if you don't do this step first. Turn it on, put it down onto a piece of steel or your bench, and push down. What that does, it gets all the strands spinning one way. That way they're not straight out to where they'll actually go on and damage it. So very important, make sure you do that. But I'm going to keep this on low so I don't fling this stuff all over my desk. You just go in. Don't put a lot of force on it. Go in and just clean around the whole chip. Give you a nice clean working area then. God, I can't believe I'm doing this again. Of course, it's all over my shirt. Messing up my school clothes. So, that's what you do to get a nice clean area. Now, when these chips, most of the time when you get these out, you're going to see what the failure is of these. These legs actually will come desoldered right from the board. And that's mainly what the failure is on the Jtec controller. These components, they get heated up and they start to actually desolder themselves. They don't desolder themselves. What happens is the solder that is used on them, from over time heating up, cooling down, that solder actually runs through and goes inside of the traces and actually solder the trace. Just like if you go to solder one of these legs, you put solder at one end, you can see it run up the whole side of the leg of the chip. And that's what's actually happening, that when these things heat up and cool down, that heat actually heats them and it follows these little traces. I don't know if you can see them on the video or not, but that solder actually, it'll suck it right up those traces all over the different boards. That, you know, that's what actually happens, and that's how they get desoldered. Soldered, I don't know why I soldered, but desoldered, whatever you want to call it. So that's how you get components cleaned out. And next, we're going to get into testing of certain components and how to identify different components on these. So I hope you like the video, and the next one I hope you like also. So thank you.